Hey there, TigerShark here again with Okano. I am taking a break from my guide videos for a week or two for some random fun. It's surprisingly hard to write the scripts for these absolutely mediocre videos. So I'll talk about some background on my ranked climb, and maybe even give some non-satirical advice while I'm at it. I started playing League in Season 7. I was a jungle main immediately because I hated farming and lane and support was stressful. Never climbed past bronze until Season 12 when I hit silver. I know, impressive, right? Season 13 though, I picked Fiddlesticks, and I one-tricked to gold in the first split. Then in the second split, I climbed all the way to Emerald 2 by playing nothing but Fiddlesticks. If I recall correctly, I made it to be the rank 69 Fiddlesticks player in North America. It might sound like a joke because it's 69, but it really is true. I was ranked 600 something in the whole world. I don't know how many Fiddlesticks players there are, but that sounds impressive to me. Anyway, with the map and item changes in Season 14, I just didn't think Fiddle would be very good. Plus, after playing 2 to 3 games a day for a whole season with the same champion, I was getting a little bored and wanted to change it up. So Season 14 rolled around and I was placed in Plat. I tried really hard to make AP Twitch jungle work. Let me tell you, it was really fun, but Twitch sucks as a jungler these days. Or maybe I shouldn't just stick to the AP playstyle, I don't know. Anyway, I started to drop ranks. I swapped to Kayn, then Kindred, then Pantheon before he was meta. Turns out I was just a good Fiddlesticks player and not a good jungle player. Ended up demoting all the way to bronze by the end of Season 14. I think I was just burned out and really tired of sticking to one champion. Well, whatever. Season 15 started, or I guess Season 2025 is what they call it now, and I legit demoted to Iron 4 with 0 LP. Man, that was a dark time. Anyway, I started playing mid because I was really struggling in the jungle for whatever reason, and I just wasn't having fun anymore. It's been like relearning the game all over again. Not sure what made me pick Varus, but I did. I gave the AP Varus build a shot, and I was instantly addicted. I've managed to climb back to silver by playing almost nothing but AP Varus mid. So here's some things I've learned while doing this. I'll give some tips and observations about Varus and mid lane and just playing in general. I promise I won't only talk about Varus, but I'm focusing on him because he's my main right now. Tip number 1. Varus's AP build has a very crappy wave clear. You'll get outpushed by pretty much every meta mid laner, and probably outroamed because of it. One thing I'm very good at is not dying in lane and playing very safely, so I almost never feed my opponent kills, but what often ends up happening is my opponent will push hard and then roam to get a double kill in bot lane, despite my repeated spam pinging, might I add. I actually use the question mark ping for its intended purpose, and I use the danger ping when I think a roam is happening. These things rarely help, so my opponent will often get fed anyway. I will try to follow a roam when I'm more confident or when there isn't a huge wave on my tower, or I'll try to push the enemy tower down. But again, it's hard to push the lane with this build. Tip number 2, Varus is a mana guzzler, particularly with the AP build, which is why I buy tier first item every game. Maybe that's a bad call, but I find I'd rather have the mana than anything else. I've tried starting Dorn's Blade or Dorn's Ring, and I simply have a better time in laning phase with a tier. Plus, Archangel's Staff is a solid AP item anyway. Since I'm talking about it, tip number 3 is about build. So I've experimented with a lot of builds. I like a few different variations, but I have one in particular that I tend to gravitate towards the most. In pretty much all the builds, you really won't start coming online until 2 to 3 items. I go Rageblade first, followed by Nashers. This is a solid power spike because your autos will be doing a decent amount of damage. Not as much as an AD build, but it's still solid. Because if you don't know, Nashers has AP damage on hit, plus Varus' W passive gives him AP damage on hit, and Rageblade has AP damage on hit plus doubled on hit procs every 3 autos when fully stacked. And the attack speed from the 2 items plus Varus' passive is actually quite a lot. And of course, I have to buy Shadow Flame. I always joke about Shadow Flame in my guide videos, but it legitimately is a really good item. It's a really strong power spike for Varus because it makes your AP damage crit on enemies below 40% HP. This synergizes really well with Varus' W active, which makes his Q do bonus missing HP damage increased by blight stacks on the enemies. Then I'll generally finish it off with a death cap and a completed Archangels. By the time you have Shadow Flame, you'll pretty much be one-shotting squishies, and if you're not, the death cap will guarantee it. I'll change up the build if I need to, sometimes throwing in a Zonia's or a Crypt Bloom. I tried a movement speed build with Cosmic Drive, Lichbane, and Storm Surge. Honestly, it's really fun build, but you end up not doing as much damage, so trade-offs, you know? Anyway, moving on to tip number 4. We'll talk a little more about Varus and then I'll move on to some more generalized tips. The thing about AP is you end up being really reliant on hitting your R. It does solid damage and roots the enemy, but the important part is that it applies 3 blight stacks immediately. and it has deceptively long range. So your combo for a true one-shot will often be RWQ. Boom, dead Caitlyn. Plus if the other enemies stay nearby to the rooted target for something like 2 seconds, they will get rooted and blighted as well. So you can E them or wait for your Q to come back up for a second one-shot. A good Varus R into a teamfight can have a similar effect to a Fiddlesticks R if timed right. That's probably one of the reasons I click with this champion. And one more thing I'll mention about Varus before moving on. Because of the max HP damage from Blight stacks and missing HP damage from W active, all scaling with AP, you can really chunk tanks too. I've nearly one-shot a full HP Scion in Cho'Gath in the late game. They didn't have any magic resist though, they just stacked HP, but still, it was really cool. Tip number 5. Mute chat. Seriously, it makes a difference. Yes, you're losing a major means of communication, but generally speaking, I've seen it abused more than used for strategizing. So I literally went into my settings and I shut off team and all chat entirely. I leave pings on though because they can be really important. If you mute pings, I would argue that you're actively harming your team. So if I get spam pinged, I will mute that person specifically because that isn't helping at all. Tip number 6. One-tricking really is a good way to climb. But that being said, I get bored playing the same champion too much, so you have to make a choice. Do you want to play the game to rank up, or to have fun? But I'd pose the question, why do you want to rank up? Personally, I have fun when I see that imaginary LP number go up. Competition motivates me. But that also being said, it means nothing. If I make it to Diamond or even Challenger, it still doesn't mean anything. At the end of the day, it's a video game, and video games are meant to be fun. If you're not having fun, what are you doing? I will admit, I let my losses affect my mood too much. It's just how my brain works. I try not to care, but I really do. So sometimes I just have to take a couple days off and try to reset. Tip number 7. Pay attention to your other lanes, and importantly, pay attention to your jungler. For the love of God, don't think you know better than they do. I may be biased because I used to be a jungle main, and I'm not trying to say all junglers are right all the time. But for real, if you're not a jungler, then you really don't understand the decision making they have to do. There's probably a really good reason they're not ganking for you. They have to pay attention to all 3 lanes as well as objectives, as well as the enemy jungler. Ganking, counter-ganking, invading, counter-invading, jungle tracking, objectives, wave states. There's a lot going on that you're probably not paying attention to because you're focused on your lane and your opponent. All I'm really trying to say is just try to have a little more patience with your jungler and try to pay attention when they want to do objectives or when they're getting invaded. The great thing about playing mid lane is I can easily rotate to objectives and jungle fights to help out if needed. One of the easiest ways to tilt your jungler is to ignore them when they're getting invaded, especially if your lane opponent rotated to the fight and you didn't. I know there are things out of your control, but maybe just think about it and put yourself in their shoes. Anyway, that's all I've got for now. To be honest, I really didn't know where I was going with this video when I started it. I was just tired and didn't feel like writing the script for my Corky guide. So this is what you get for today. Next week I'll have something different as well, maybe closer to my normal format, we'll see. Then the week after that, I'll be back to the champion guides. So anyway, that's all for this one, and as always, I hope you have a spectacular day. I have other channels and projects that I would love for you to check out. I have a second channel called Drawing with TigerShark, where I have a variety of drawing content. I have an EP on Spotify called 5,555 Miles as my one-man band called Power Mouse. And finally, I have a clothing brand called Studio Duck Apparel featuring original artwork that I create myself. The links to these things will all be in the description.